The emergency room buzzed with its usual chaos that Tuesday morning. Dr. Marcus Chen barely glanced up when the new nurse walked in. Her gray hair pulled into a neat bun, her scrubs perhaps a size too loose. She looked to be in her 60s, moving with a careful deliberateness that made the younger staff exchange knowing glances. In the break room, Dr. Rachel Morrison whispered loud enough for others to hear that maybe administration had lowered their standards. Someone laughed. The woman whose name tag read Eleanor Walsh said nothing, simply began her rounds with quiet efficiency. The mockery continued for weeks. When Eleanor took longer to start an IV, the residents smirked. When she asked for clarification on the new digital charting system, they rolled their eyes. Dr. Chen once remarked that she probably retired a decade ago and came back because she was bored. What none of them knew was that Eleanor Walsh had indeed retired, but not from nursing. She had been the chief medical officer of a forward surgical team, the kind that operated in tents while mortar fire shook the ground, the kind that decided who lived and died when there were more wounded than beds. Everything changed on a gray November afternoon when the ambulance sirens wailed their approach. The paramedics burst through the doors with a patient whose tactical gear was still strapped to his bleeding body. Commander James Mitchell, Navy SEAL, had taken shrapnel during a training exercise gone catastrophically wrong. His blood pressure was dropping, his breathing labored. The trauma team assembled quickly, but as they cut away his vest, they saw the extent of his injuries. Dr. Chun's face went pale. The damage was massive, complicated, the kind of trauma that required not just skill but battlefield instinct. Eleanor appeared at the doorway and assessed the situation in seconds. She saw what the others couldn't yet see, the internal bleeding pattern, the priority sequence, the precious minutes slipping away. Without raising her voice, she gave an order. Dr. Morrison turned to her sharply, about to put this old nurse in her place, but something in Eleanor's eyes stopped her cold. They were the eyes of someone who had seen death and wrestled it to a draw more times than anyone in that room could imagine. Commander Mitchell's eyes flickered open briefly, his gaze unfocused and searching. Through his pain, through the fog of trauma, something in him recognized something in her. Perhaps it was the way she moved with absolute certainty, the way her hands worked with practiced grace. Or perhaps it was something deeper, something warriors recognized in each other. With tremendous effort he raised his hand, trembling and bloody, to his forehead. It was a salute, unmistakable and deliberate, offered with the last of his strength before he lost consciousness again. The room froze. Eleanor returned the salute with crisp precision, then immediately began calling out orders. This time, everyone listened. She directed the team with the authority of someone who had commanded in far worse conditions than this sterile emergency room. She knew exactly which bleeds to address first, how to stabilize him for surgery, which complications to anticipate before they became fatal. Under her guidance, the chaos became a choreographed dance. Commander Mitchell was in surgery within 12 minutes, a hospital record. Later, Dr. Chen found Eleanor in the supply room restocking with the same quiet efficiency she brought to everything. He had done his research during the surgery. Colonel Eleanor Walsh, retired recipient of 2 Bronze Stars and a Silver Star for Valor. She had commanded field hospitals in 3 combat zones, had performed over 1,000 surgeries under fire, had trained an entire generation of military trauma surgeons. She had lost her only son, also a SEAL, 5 years ago in Afghanistan. This job, this simple position that everyone thought was beneath her capabilities, was her way of continuing to serve, of honoring his memory by saving others who wore the uniform. Dr. Chen struggled for words, finally managing an apology that felt woefully inadequate. Eleanor smiled gently and told him that assumptions were easy, understanding took effort, and she had learned long ago not to need validation from those who had never walked her path. Commander Mitchell survived, his recovery long but complete. Before he left the hospital, he asked to see the nurse who had saved him. When Eleanor entered his room, he saluted again, properly this time, and thanked the colonel for bringing him home. She simply held his hand and told him to live well, to make his time count. After that day, the emergency room was different. Eleanor Walsh was different to them now, though she had never changed at all. The younger staff sought her guidance, learned from her calm in crisis, understood finally that true expertise often walks quietly among us, waiting not for recognition, but for the moment when it is truly needed.